you definitely can have the best of both worlds. I'm mostly talking about just the ideation of a video and just purely getting started with the video. Normally I don't talk about this stuff, but since I'm actually currently, my mind is focused on it, I'm going to talk about this. And it's just because I'm exporting my video right now. Whenever I make videos, whenever I come up with like video ideas, what the video is going to be about, it typically comes one of two ways. One is going to be premeditated, meaning that like I've fleshed out the idea kind of. I've at least put it in my notes app on my phone or written it down somewhere. And then the other one is kind of off the cuff or figuring it out as I make the video. And Yesterday's was nothing but the second one. I had no idea what I was going to talk about, and I kind of figured it out as I was shooting it and as I was editing the video. With those typically take way longer than a premeditated one. So typically I try to do the premeditated ones, but I also think, like everything in life, I think both of them have their place. The premeditated ones typically can be more factual. They can have a lot more information and a lot more context on what the video is actually about in them. And the spontaneous ones, I feel like they don't have as much information about what the subject is, but they're more relatable because it's more of me just going about my life, talking to you, having conversations, and whatever the subject is happens to come up with conversation or just with like something that happened in my life that day. I think both of them have their places, and I think both of them have their strengths and their weaknesses. But that's literally, I mean, that's probably that's one of the questions I get asked a lot is how do you come up with ideas for videos, and it's literally those two ways. The premeditated ones, I typically I'll get questions and I'll write them down from those questions in my notes app and I'll be able to flush them out. And the the ones that are just off the cuff. If you do one or the other, or if you do both, let me know. I also love figuring out or learning how other people make videos because one, I just think it's fascinating seeing other creatives and how they do, in essence, the same thing but differently. And two, selfishly, I want to see if I can apply those habits or those things to my workflow. It still has 5 minutes to export. Savannah's family, or her mom and her sister, are coming today, meaning that we had to, Savannah cleaned up the apartment. I was on a run while she did it, which the running's going good. It was really hot and kind of muggy, but the running's going great. But all that being said, our house is clean, and I have a tendency when things are clean to completely destroy it. So I'm trying really hard not to keep it clean, because yeah. Now, I don't think if you have the premeditated kind of filmmaking, or if you do the more off the cuff, it doesn't mean that you can't have the strengths of both of the other ones. Like, you can't, just because one is like premeditated, you've written like the script out, it doesn't mean that you can't have human elements in there. It just means you have to think about those human elements beforehand and put them in there. And just because you don't have like structure in the off the cuff thing, you can fix that in editing, or you can just think about that while you're shooting. You definitely can have the best of both worlds. I'm mostly talking about just the ideation of a video and just purely getting started with the video. And for me, I typically, what I'll do is I'll start shooting something and then I'll figure out like what the video is going to be about, and then I'll flush it out in my notes app, whether I'm like just sitting on the couch or I'm running or doing whatever. And then I'll like have a kind of a rough outline or a skit for that day's video. And for me, that typically works best. And it gives me like a purpose. It feels like I like have like things that I need to shoot versus like just wandering around with the camera and shooting aimlessly. And editing is a lot easier when you have like a structure, at least for me. I think YouTube is really broken up into two different viewing types, or two different types of viewers. The kind that come to the platform to learn things and seek information, and they want questions that they have to be answered. And then the others that kind of use it as almost like a Netflix type of thing, where they're just looking to be entertained. I think that's something that makes YouTube really, really unique, is you have two different types of viewers that both enjoy the platform, but for very different reasons, versus like Netflix or like Hulu or any other streaming platform. You really just come to be entertained. You're not really looking or seeking to have like information or questions you have answered, like how to do things or learn more about a subject, maybe a documentary occasionally, but I don't really see people using Netflix or any of those streaming sites as a destination to get like answers or anything like that to a specific problem they may have in their lives. And I think, like I said, I think that makes YouTube really special and really cool. And I think if you can have a little bit of both spontaneity and also like have things planned out, that satisfies both groups of watchers. And I think the key to really making videos that can really like do well on the platform is the ability to satisfy those two groups without making it feel like you're kind of sacrificing one or the other. So because of that, that's something that I really strive for in my videos. I try to satisfy both groups. And for me, like I said, the way that I work and the workflow I described earlier is how I best do that. Also, the agreement for Savannah and I was to, if she like cleaned up the entire apartment, I would scoop the cat box because it hasn't been done in like a week. I just shot an entire sequence of me scooping a cat box. Here we are. One of my favorite things to do with videos or just anything really is problem solving and creative problem solving. Basically meaning that when I'm presented with an issue or I come across something that it's just not working, I have to find a solution then and there by just using like my own like intuition or my own like basically just figuring it out on the fly. I love that. Like there's fewer things in this world that I love or get more satisfaction out of than doing that. And in the video that you're actually watching right now, I had just that same problem. And let me boot my laptop up and I'll show you what I did. So typically with these videos, especially the day in the life videos, I will record some kind of voiceover and just interlay that or overlay B-roll on top of that. And typically the B-roll will be guiding you to wherever I'm doing that current talking head. Now, the tricky part to that is having enough B-roll to get you to that specific spot. Like typically what I'll do is I'll try to have like a complete thought underneath that B-roll, and then when I transition or switch to like a new subject or I slightly pivot in whatever I'm telling you, then I'll try to include like my face or talking. And occasionally, sometimes I will I'll record something after the fact, and typically I'll literally just have the microphone in my hand and I'll be carrying the camera back to wherever I'm going. In this case, I was going back to our apartment, and I'll just talk into the camera or talk into the microphone, just purely getting the audio with the thought of I'll get the B-roll after the fact. And that garage sequence, I didn't shoot enough B-roll basically. So what I did was, let me show you. What I ended up doing was, so for this part right here, this audio does not match this video. The actual video is literally this, me walking like through the staircase and all of that. So what I ended up doing was I ended up taking this video, which is a completely separate clip, like it's just me like talking and delivering like the first talking head, and I just stretched that over the talking head, and it kind of works. I mean, technically I'm walking back away from the camera to walk to the camera right here, but if I didn't explain that to you at all, then you would have never known. So basically what I'm saying is I literally took the video from one talking head and the audio from another talking head and smashed them together. Because I'm far enough away from the camera, you would have never known. And then on top of that, I added like a zoom in or a zoom out to help like engage you and keep you engaged. So you would have never known unless I love that. That's amazing. That's one thing that I love about making videos every single day. Like when you don't make videos often enough, you don't come across these problems. And man, maybe you could have maybe you could tell now that you're like, will you rewatch it back? But